This podcast is sponsored by Pogo, property operations on the go. Facility managers know how challenging it can be to keep everything running smoothly. That's why Pogo was created, a white-labeled software solution designed by property managers for property managers. Pogo is your ultimate all-in-one platform for managing multiple assets. With Pogo, you communicate with your tenants, manage maintenance requests, control property access, manage bookable spaces, and much more. Plus, with advanced analytics, Pogo empowers you to optimize your operations anytime, anywhere. The best part? Pogo is completely customizable to fit your brand and business. Simplify your operations, enhance tenant satisfaction, and save money with Pogo. Ready to make the switch? Visit gopogo.us to schedule your demo today. Pogo, one system, multiple solutions at your fingertips. Hello, everyone. Mark Beffert here, bringing you relevant discussions with leaders in the commercial real estate sector. Today, we have Brett Price. Brett, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Brett is with our company, Newmark Robinson Park, and Brett is the number one real estate guy. Look how young he is.
Old, not you. Old.
Well,
I'm not, when we all started, we were the young guys. Well, as you know, we're not the young guys anymore.
Well, I'm definitely not. You still are, but I'm impressed with that little beard of yours. Because,
yeah.
I mean, I couldn't grow that much. You grow that, but that's 3 or 4 days?
Yeah.
I couldn't grow that much in a year. So I'm really impressed with that. But so Brett, leading industrial real estate broker here in Oklahoma City, and even doing some stuff in the region. So you've done well in excess of $1 billion worth of transactions, probably in the last 5 to 10 years, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you get started in the business?
By accident, and really very thankful to have a great friend that you know very well, Andy Ridley. So I went to the University of Oklahoma. Real estate was never, in my thought process. And he was the consummate overachiever. I made friends with him my first week at college, and still to this day, one of my best friends. But he always knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to go work in real estate. He wanted to work in the office sector, and he wanted to work for Mark Beffert. Oh, and he achieved all those as soon as he graduated. Yeah. And of course, being that overachiever, he graduated in 3.5 years. I was having a little bit more fun, and on the 4.5 year approach, he used to actually run. He still lived in Norman, and my house in college was along his running path. So he would stop by, during his runs and tell me about all the cool stuff you guys were doing. At that time, you were buying Leadership Square. I'm a college kid, and I'm just like, wow, this sounds really cool. I didn't think about it much after that, and he called me probably 2 weeks before I graduated college and said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to go into the car business." My dad was in the car business, and I had a couple other offers. I really wasn't sure. And he said, "I'm doing a deal with another office broker, a guy named Tim Strange, and he's looking at hiring somebody and mentoring them. You should call him." So called Tim, had a great lunch. He called me back about a week later when I was taking my books back. I was graduating 2 days later. And he said, "I've got the listing on First National Center, which is now the National, 1 million square foot office building, and it just fell out of contract. And I need somebody to abstract all the leases." And I said, "Sure, I'm your guy."
So that was your first deal?
First deal. So I was just a labor, contract employee. I show up the first day. So I graduated on a Friday. I show up into his office on a Monday. And he has this little pull out on the other side of his desk, and he hands me a lease and an Excel sheet and says, "Abstract this lease." I'd never seen a lease before in my life. So the first day I did one lease. It took me all day.
Took you all day?
I did one lease.
You read one lease in one day.
So I put it on his desk as I leave, and I show up the next morning. He says, "Make these changes, and by the way, I need you to do all these." And he points to the back of his office, and it's stacks 3 feet tall across the full back, state leases, 300, 400 square feet at a time. So that was my first week. And, I tell him that I did everything but sleep in your office. And he said, "I think you did sleep in my office." So
that's awesome.
After that, he offered me the industrial side of his business. He had the office and industrial side of Sperry Van Ness. I accepted and started a week later, and it's all I've done for the last 20 plus years.
I don't think you know this, but when Tim and I merged our firms together, we would meet periodically, and it's our process and how we put it together. The one thing I will always remember, he said, the one person in my firm that I think has leadership ability is Brett Price. I didn't know you.
I appreciate it. I mean,
Tim said that.
I will say this forever and firmly believe it. I wouldn't still be in this business if it wasn't for Tim Strange.
Right.
He not only gave me the opportunity, but he supported me.
Yeah.
I was fresh out of college. I didn't know what I was doing, and he had the patience and the ability to really nurture that. I mean, I'm forever grateful.
Well, Brett, I've got to and I've got to know you, and I didn't know who you were. I just said, who's this Price guy?
Nobody cared about industrial brokers.
Yeah, really. What's industrial? Kind of like it today. But yeah, he was your greatest champion, and he was spot on. So, and that's why you're the leader. What gets you up every day? I mean, what gets you motivated on a day-to-day basis?
I really love what I do. Always have. Growing up, I love team sports. Played a lot of team sports. Played on some really good teams. Won some state championships, traveled around, had some really great leaders on those teams, had some great coaches, had some great support, from our families as we were growing up. And brokerage, in my opinion, is a team sport. It really is. And, the team that you have built here, your support staff is phenomenal. The team that we've been able to build on the industrial side, we enjoy each other. We really get along, and it's definitely team first mentality every day. Yeah. Even the other brokers in the office, I go home and I tell my wife, I feel like I just hung out with my friends all day. We're really fortunate. And then at the end of the day, it's a people business, and it comes down to our clients. And we've been really fortunate to work with some great clients that really look at us as partners and allow us to work next to them every day to help them bring your projects all the way through.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, especially about the teams, because this business, if you're a solo guy, it's hard to really be productive and really provide good service to you guys have, with you, Chris and Carly and Collier and Tulsa, you guys have built a pretty good team name for yourself. So you ought to be proud of that.
Yeah, I agree. And you especially need to be a specialist, within your product type. And then there's obviously subsets of each product type. So we've really been strategic about growing it and helping everybody understand their role. And so we can all, form that well-rounded team.
So let's get into the industrial sector. So give the audience a little bit of perspective of what does industrial sector mean? There's a lot of terminology, and the thing about real estate business, we use a lot of acronyms, a lot of terminology. So you got distribution, manufacturing. Kind of just give me just a minute or two, just description of the different product types inside the industrial sector.
I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, and it's always fun to, they ask great questions, but how do you really explain it to them, right?
Right.
And I actually ran into this recently. What do you do, Dad? If you think about it, everything you touch, everything came through a manufacturing and a distribution channel.
Like this cup.
Everything.
Yeah.
So everything we touch came through an industrial building or an industrial yard.
Great point.
It was mined. It was produced somewhere. Then it has to go through, a distribution channel to finally get to you. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of people don't like the word industrial, but it's really critical to our everyday lives.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how the industrial sector has changed over time. So, we've been on a pretty good growth trajectory here in Oklahoma City. I love the phrase that Dick Tannenbaum says. At one time we were building 100,000 square foot facilities. Now we're building million square foot facilities. Give us a flavor of some of the evolution that you've seen happen over the last, you've been in the business how long?
20 years.
20 years. So when you first started, did your first office deal, did you not like the office market? you abstract
something
leases?
about those 300 square foot office leases. Just
not
really
doing that anymore. So what's happened in the last 20 years? How's the market evolved today? And we'll get into what's going in the future. But
if you just look at Oklahoma City, when I started 20 years ago, like Dick said, we were not building spec product. It was really a bad 4-letter word. Nobody wanted to talk about spec product.
Spec product meaning what? What's a spec
meaning
product?
You build a building speculative. You build it with no tenants.
No tenants. Okay.
Yep. You're building it.
No signed leases at all.
100%. Yep.
You build field of dreams.
Yep.
Hopefully, okay.
So we really weren't building any spec product for, really from the 80s to about 2000. There's a gap there in our market, in a lot of markets. Then we started building what I like to call the Oklahoma spec. Dig did several of them, where you have a tenant 30, 40, maybe 50,000 square feet, and then you maybe build 100,000 square feet.
Okay.
So you've got it partially leased. It's never 100% spec.
Yeah.
And then, you fast forward about 5 years from that, and then we saw some regional developers come in, and really we realized that our industrial base was not going to grow unless we started building spec product. Because in Kansas City and Dallas, these other markets where you could ship in goods and get them here next day or 2 days, they were building spec product. So if anybody came in and needed space quickly, we couldn't provide it, but they could. And they could still service our market from those areas. So we started building spec product, call it 5-7 years ago in our market. And we, have been beneficiary of winning some deals because of it. So it's definitely ramped up. We're never going to be a Dallas. We're not going to go out and build 10 and 20 million square foot of space a year. It's a pretty steady growth here, but it has definitely helped us grow.
Well, so take that. So Dick and I, and you market it for Dick and I at OKC 577. We just built spec 340,000 square feet. I'm an office guy. I'm building this spec. I'm just riding the wave here because I'm relying on you and Dick to say this is a good deal. 340,000 square feet, 4 buildings. We got the first one leased before we finished 120,000 square feet. We have prospects for the other 3 buildings. I'm impressed. Why would we not go build more?
We still, like I said, we're never going to be a Dallas. We're not that dynamic. Yeah. The transaction velocity, the tenant velocity is never going to be that big. But I will say, going back to, being within proximity to Kansas City and Dallas, for a long time, that was viewed as a negative thing, actually, for our industrial market. Okay. Because you could set up a big hub in Kansas City or Dallas, and you could have either a small spoke or really direct shipping in Oklahoma City. So you didn't really have to have a big industrial presence in Oklahoma City. And then, you look back 5 years ago when really what we call the Amazon effect really took hold. People don't want their goods in 2 days. They want them next day or same day, which means you have to have the goods a lot closer to the people. We're fortunate that our population is growing, over 1.4 million here. So we were a market where people had not fully built out their distribution channels. So the last 5 years, we've seen those tenants come in and build out those channels. So it's been good for us because we're gaining new tenants into the market. The sizes of our deals are getting larger, and also the credit's getting better.
Okay, so you look at a map. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma sits right in the middle of this great country of ours, the United States. We have interstates that go from Mexican border to the Canadian border, I-35, and go from East Coast to West Coast, I-40. One would think that we would be the place to be because of that intersection. Mm-hmm. Has that been beneficial for us or not?
Yes. And it's growing more beneficial by the day, okay. I would say. I-35 was previously the NAFTA corridor. Trump renamed it the USMCA with that agreement he did, the US-Mexico-Canada agreement. Okay. And then, there's a good chance he's going to rename it before he leaves office again. But so that, like you said, links Canada to Mexico. We do have I-40 that links us, across the country going east and west. A lot of people forget or maybe didn't realize that in 2024, Mexico became our biggest trading partner. Okay. Not China, nowhere in Asia. It was actually Mexico. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, it was driven by...
Why is that?
A lot of it was driven by COVID. Okay. People realizing they can't have their goods manufactured so far away from the United States. And so they started setting up operations in Mexico and Canada. We're really close to Mexico. We started looking at it a couple of years ago and really couldn't find a good research piece on it. So actually our research team here put together a great piece about a year ago on the I-35 megapolis. So a megapolis is several cities that are linked together in a region by trade and businesses linked together. So the I-35 megapolis starts in Monterrey, Mexico, It goes north into Texas. So then you run into San Antonio, Austin, Dallas. You run north into Oklahoma City, Wichita, and then it goes off into Kansas City.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that is the fastest growing region in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we're right in the middle of it.
Wow. Okay.
And, we have seen some in-migration. Obviously, our population has been growing. We've been picking up jobs from the coast and, people coming in from the coast. Last year was also the first year we actually picked up people coming in from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing employment come here.
Wow. Okay.
We're right along the major trade path.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we're benefiting tremendously for being on I-35 and really close to Mexico as well.
Well, okay, that's very interesting. I did not know all that stuff, and that's why I love hanging around you, brother. No, I'm serious. I'm being serious. That's why, I'm an office guy and kind of got into a little bit of hotels, and you're dragging me along in the industrial sector, so I'm learning. So that's really cool stuff. So, what about tariffs?
Yeah.
Is that affecting or changing things happening in your business?
Absolutely. We talk about COVID brought this idea of nearshoring, where you kind of set up operations in Mexico, Canada, Central America, something like that. This administration is taking it a step further, and they really want onshoring. So nearshoring is getting it close. Onshoring is actually putting it within the United States.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
So yes, we are definitely benefiting from that. There's a lot of manufacturers looking around right now. They can still use the operation they have in Mexico. A lot of things get traded back and forth across the border, but if they have that U.S. presence, it gets around some of those tariffs.
You think we're going to benefit here in Oklahoma City as a result of all that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The industrial sector right now, you're at an all-time low from a vacancy standpoint. And it's less than 5%. Do you think you'll see a lot of new construction happening in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
I do. We've been very methodical about it. The developers that are in our market know, and understand the market. You can't go and just put a bunch of space out on the market. You got to space it out over time. But a lot of those facilities we're talking about are manufacturing. Those are very specialized facilities. So those take a couple of years to stand up, and you really have to build them brand new. So I think that is a phase that we are definitely in the middle of. I think we'll continue to build from there because it takes 2 years to stand it up. But you also need to store the raw goods, and then you need to store the finished goods. So the warehouse space will grow along with that manufacturing base.
So Dick Tannenbaum's the premier industrial developer in town, and it seems like every time he puts one up, it gets leased. And you're the guy who gets it done. Has it been hard?
Yes and no.
Builds a good product.
Dick builds a good product. There's several developers in town, but he's built the most product over the last 20 years. He's done really well with it. During COVID, we were fortunate to pre-lease some stuff before it finished construction. That's not typical in our market. Okay. Usually you have to be able to touch the real estate before anybody moves into the building. So once you build a building, you really need to underwrite some time to lease it up thereafter. It feels fast. To the developer, it never feels fast enough, and to us, it never feels fast enough. Yeah. But yes, we've been very fortunate to fill up everything.
Okay, so you've been in it 20 years. What are some of the changes in the physical structure that you've seen, from ceiling heights, bay depths, docks, all the lingo that you use in the industrial sector? Kind of walk me through some of the changes you've seen over the past 20 years.
Not unlike office space, right? Okay. It's become more modern. You're talking taller ceilings. In office world, that just looks cooler. For us, it's actually functional. Okay. We can rack
we are the cool kids.
Yeah, right? It just traps more heat up there. I don't know what you guys are doing.
But look at our dress. You're actually more the cool kid today. Yeah. You're dressed a little bit better than I am.
But you're correct. Ceiling heights have gotten taller.
What are they today? What's ideal?
It just depends on your market and really what you're looking at. But really, you got to build a minimum of 30 really today. In other markets, they're getting up plus 40. We're seeing some sprinkler regulations come in above that nobody anticipated. So there is kind of a sweet spot right there. But yeah, taller ceilings, more efficient storage of space. Mm-hmm. You're seeing bigger truck courts, more storing of trailers, more maneuverability, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely evolved, but typically, they're just bigger footprints. They're taller buildings with more concrete outside.
Uh, what do you think about robotics? Are you seeing more companies use robotics in the internal process inside? Do you think that'll change how buildings are constructed or maintained inside?
Definitely. They're using it from picking standpoints and packing, becoming more efficient. I definitely think it's going to continue to grow. You're able to pack your aisles a little tighter, and everything moves a little bit more efficient with these robots. So yes, it's definitely going to continue to evolve, and it's going to change, how we think
Yeah.
about and build industrial buildings.
Yeah. So the financial structure's changed. I was listening to Dick Tannenbaum the other day say, God, at one point we were leasing space for $1.50. Now it's $8 for distribution space. Is that true? And where do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, construction prices
Right.
are not going down. Interest rates are what they are. We're all playing with the same interest rates. Will they go down in the short term? I don't know. I think our best guess is that they're going to remain where they are for a little while. But really, construction prices is driving it. Land's more expensive. Building process is more expensive. So, and that's where, taller ceilings, that sort of thing comes into play because you can be more efficient. So if you had a 18 or 20 foot building and now you've got a 30, well, you've gained, more volume. So you can, offset some of those price increases with more volume.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to more of the labor side. Has the immigration policies of the United States, has that affected the industrial sector, or do you see it affecting it in the near term or maybe even the long term?
It definitely has.
Yeah.
There's no question. A lot of service industries, a lot of warehouse, a lot of construction. It definitely has. I don't feel like we felt the full impact of that
Yeah.
yet. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Definitely think it's going to affect us. If you think about it and you think about the cycle of migration, in migration, out migration, when people move to a city, and we've been fortunate to see, positive gains in that aspect, they create more workers. Whenever these manufacturing operations are looking around, that's what they need. They need workforce. So they look at cities like Oklahoma City, positive in migration. That's a good thing. They have available workforce. They set up their operation here. Well, now that these people moved here, now they have a job.
Mm-hmm.
Now they buy houses.
Mm-hmm.
You need building materials, which industrial provides.
Mm-hmm.
They also buy goods, which get stored in warehouse buildings.
Yeah.
So
good point.
Positive immigration and population growth benefits industrial all the way along the chain.
Yeah. Got it. Well, so the city of Oklahoma City, I think, does a really good job of trying to look forward and to make sure that we're positioning ourselves for long-term growth. And one of those items is trying to buy large swaths of land. And so they bought what's now today is OKC 577 parcel of land from CLO. And really it now has a true Class A industrial park. Do you see that as the trend going forward? And I kind of compare that to the Mid-America Industrial Park that's out in the northeast part of in Pryor, Oklahoma, outside of Tulsa. Do you think we should do more of that?
I do. I was a big proponent for that for a long time. If you go to other cities that we're competing against, they have industrial parks, and we really did not. We've got some great developers that have built, 2, 3, 4 buildings at a time in a cluster, but they didn't really have a full industrial park. You've been through it. Once you buy the land, you clean off all the easements, you put utilities in place, you put the infrastructure in place, you get it zoned right. It's a 2-year process. We talked about these manufacturing buildings. Sometimes it takes them 1.5 to 2 years to build their building. Well, you add 2 years of just infrastructure work. Now you're talking about 3, 4 years. So having land available that has already been through that process and really is shovel ready allows us to attract more of these manufacturing companies that, again, grows our base.
Yeah.
So yes, I think we were behind the curve on that. Hopefully we continue to do that. I really think it's really important to growing our industrial base. Yes.
Yeah. So What are some of the natural resources that are being demanded today in industrial, from electricity to water, those things? Do you see some of that changing? What are the key elements that you need in your industrial park?
Absolutely. You really need a pro-business environment. You need land, and then you need utilities. We've definitely got the pro-business environment. We're one of the biggest cities in the country. We've got a lot of land. We do have great utilities. It's not run to every place we need it at the moment. So I do think going forward as a city, we really need to look at how do we extend these services strategically. You don't want to get too spread out, get your services too spread out. But I do think we have room to grow, which is an advantage. And we need to get out and prepare these sites for industrial development. Get the utilities there, get the proper roads there, and that sort of thing. From the utilities that you need, electricity is a big one right now.
Yeah.
These data centers are,
they're gobbling up all this electricity.
You put in a couple
we need
data
to slap
centers.
our hands. We all need to stop using our cell phones. Yeah. Let's go on a hiatus for like a week, right?
Yeah, not going to happen.
Let's power these things babies down so we can use our electricity. It was described, we were looking at the data center at OKC 577 that ended up not happening. And the amount of power they were needing to power their data centers was more than the entire electricity for the city of Moore.
Yeah. And that was a small one.
That's a small one. That's mind-boggling.
Yep.
How are we as a country going to be able to provide this power? It's going to be hard to do it with just basic electricity.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people looking at nuclear again,
Yeah.
which we haven't looked at in a long time. It still seems the most efficient that's available right now is natural gas. It's still coal. Obviously, there's been a lot of pushback on using those facilities and building new facilities that involve those. So I don't know. It's a balance. It really is. Yeah. And we're going to have to figure out what's more important to us, moving forward as a data-driven society or, some balance with some environment.
Yeah. Do we lack any resources here that are preventing us from growth?
We have great city leadership that have looked at, building out the highway infrastructure, building out our roads. They've done a great job of that. You can literally get from one corner to the other of Oklahoma City in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So highway infrastructure is really great. Obviously, then you need to maintain it and continue to look at growth because those projects, take a while. Then you look at, electricity, you look at gas, you look at water. Water, we're in a great position. We've got plenty of water. We've got lakes. We've got ability to get more water into Oklahoma City if we need to. And then you look at natural gas and electricity. Great providers. They do a good job. They're looking at expanding their networks right now. It's ongoing, but I feel like as a whole, as a city, we're in a good place.
We're in a good place. So our industrial base right now, I'm going to guess, you'll need to correct me, is close to 100 million.
About 180 million. It depends on whose reports you look at. It's about 180 million. One thing that a lot of people learn when they come here, we actually have a lot of owner-user buildings.
Right.
I mean, you look at Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people, on a smaller scale, but are similar to Hobby Lobby, where they own and operate their own business. And sometimes it doesn't get reported in our industrial stats.
Got it. So let's take Hobby Lobby. So their facilities, which are huge, massive, they're in that 180.
Yes,
they're in the 180. So if you were to take out those facilities, are the owner occupied facilities, say, half, and the rest is third party?
Just about. Okay. I would say you probably have 80 to 100 million that would be left over after you take that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of that 100, let's just call it 80 to 100 million, of that space, how much of it is really functional for today's use? Because you got some older facilities that maybe have lower ceiling heights and just haven't been maintained correctly. So if we have the base that's really marketable for today's environment.
Not much, honestly. Like I said, you didn't start building new modern product until the last 10 years or so. And we've been, at a slower clip than the rest of the country. It's not more than, call it 5 million feet, maybe 10 million feet. It's really not a big piece of our market yet.
And so how do we, because I'm with you, I think that we've got tremendous opportunity to continue to grow. How do we meet that demand today? If we're not going to do a whole lot of spec, we may do the Oklahoma spec, which is 30 to 40% preoccupied. how do we manage that growth? And so we talked about the sites like OKC 577, build that infrastructure to those sites,
Yep.
which is really having those developable ready sites or pad ready sites inside that development. That's a first key. But then how do we ensure we have the natural resources, and how do we ensure that then we have the product that can attract those new firms? Or will everybody just do a build to suit?
No, they won't do a build to suit.
Yeah.
And that's when, you look at North Dallas right now, they have 30 facilities available, with space,
30 facilities?
with space of 200,000 square feet or more.
Wow.
And we have 2.
Mm.
So, if it comes down to it and we don't keep building spec product, they'll go to North Dallas.
Yeah.
And we'll miss out on that.
Okay.
So we definitely need to continue to build it. We have to be strategic about it.
Mm-hmm.
The city has a plan, but I do think it's time that we sit down and look at where the next growth and where the next pocket of industrial growth is going to be.
It's going to be, yeah. Yeah. So if you were to build something, where would you build it today? Outside of OKC 577.
Yeah, no.
We know that's going to be developed out here in the 3 or 4 years.
Pre-COVID, we had a list of, call it 5 to 10 industrial sites we really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Those got picked over pretty quick.
Did they?
And we're kind of in that position too. We're trying to figure that out as well. It's going to take some coordination with the city to figure out where they are okay with running utilities, where they have a lot of money to build up some road infrastructure and that sort of thing. So I think it's a conversation we all need to have collectively.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself 20 years from now? You're only 40 years old, right?
I'm only 40 years old. Yeah. I love what I do. I love industrial. One of my favorite things is walking in an industrial building I've never been in before and just seeing what they do inside. It's always different. I'm always amazed. No matter what, I'm always going to be in the industrial business some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I really love it.
Do you do anything outside of Oklahoma City?
No. So our team just focuses on Oklahoma. We have Call Your Immigrant who sits up in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
Chris and Carly and I are here in Oklahoma City, and together we cover the whole state. But anything outside of the state, we always refer out to our network.
To your network. And that network is?
Newmark.
And how many deals have you referred out? How often do you get those opportunities to refer out? And that chain, that's probably growing at this point.
It ebbs and flows. Chris Davis does a lot of oilfield service work.
Okay.
So he, travels with those companies from time to time. But yeah, it ebbs and flows. We don't have a lot of industrial manufacturing distribution companies that are actually headquartered here besides Hobby Lobby, and they do all of theirs out of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
Amazing company. Yeah, yeah. So logistics, for somebody do you get into the logistics business at all? Do you get involved with companies in logistics at all?
Third-party logistics has been a big part of our business recently. People not leasing directly and owning their distribution channel. They really hire other firms to take care of that for them. Okay. So yeah, we've seen a huge uptick in the last 3, 4, 5 years of people, hiring third-party companies to go out and lease space and manage their process. Yeah. We don't directly get involved with it, but we've definitely been working with those types of companies a lot more.
One thing that surprised me, there's a demand for industrial space for brick and mortar, traditional brick and mortar companies. And one thing that strikes me is Kroger.
Yeah.
Doesn't have an actual store, but you buy groceries from Kroger. Tell me a little bit about that process. I thought that was amazing.
We did a lease with Kroger. It's probably been about 2 or 3 years ago now. They first contacted us and we were a little confused by it because like you said, Kroger does not have a grocery store anywhere in the state of Oklahoma. And they leased about 50,000 square feet and they now distribute their groceries in Oklahoma via these delivery vans you see driving all over town. But yeah, it's been a phenomenon we've seen for, 5-10 years, people switching more towards holding more inventory in their warehouse rather than a retail, footprint. Returns obviously get involved in that too. But yes, people are definitely shifting their smaller retail footprints, if one at all, in Kroger's case, and shifting more towards the direct shipment via their distribution network.
That's interesting. So I'm going to throw you for a loop here.
Okay.
I just had a thought. And so you talked about the ceiling heights have gotten, they're above 30 foot, and you use all that space as opposed to an office. We just got to enjoy the space, right? It's for our own personal pleasure, the higher ceilings, right? Have you ever thought about changing the pricing to a volume as opposed to a square foot?
To a cubic foot? We don't. And really, in industrial, you look at it, in Oklahoma, we price things on a price per square foot per year.
Mm-hmm.
There are other markets that do it per month. So, as you're going, it's another reason why we only specialize in Oklahoma, because we know what's going on here. And, if it's in another market, we got to refer that out. We have not. There have been some people in other markets that have done it, but it's definitely not widely, accepted at the moment.
I do remember at one point, because I used to be the database coordinator with CB many 40 years ago when I first got into business, and our rents from the industrial sector were so low. We would get brokers.
It's a rounding error for you guys.
Well, we would get brokers from California saying, you'd say your rents are $1.50. They go, per month? No, that's per year.
Yeah, right,
per
exactly.
Year.
100%.
Wow, yeah. It's just eye-opening to me. Like in California and stuff, the market, they do $1.50, but that's times 12.
That's right. Don't get that confused.
Don't get that confused. That's really interesting. Brett, it's been a pleasure. This is what advice would you give to somebody if they want to get into the real estate business?
Find a good mentor.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I didn't have that foresight. Obviously, Andy Ridley did, and he found a really great mentor in you.
Mm-hmm.
But you need a great mentor. You really do.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I would say look for a team. Like you said, everything is going towards a team. You need a good team to really do it the right way these days. I think those two things are really critical.
How is the national presence with Newmark?
Mm-hmm.
How does that benefit you, affect you? So how do you feel about that?
We've enjoyed working with Newmark.
Mm-hmm.
We firmly believe you need a national flag to really operate today at a high level. Newmark's been a great flag for us, and it's been growing. I remember it wasn't that long ago. We were fortunate enough to go down to the Top Producers Conference, and we're sitting in the industrial room as you do your breakout sessions, and there's maybe 10 of us in the room. And it was a great group. And now you go and there's 150 of us.
Right.
So not only has, the firm been growing, but obviously industrial brokerage as a whole has been growing. So it's been a great network for us. It's been exciting to see it grow as well.
Yeah. Well, Brett, I consider you one of my best friends. I love spending time with you, both personal and at work, and love your work ethic. I mean, your thought process and how to go about the day-to-day business is refreshing and kind of reminds me a little bit of me. Maybe that's why we get along so well. But
I appreciate that. I appreciate everything you're doing. I mean, this city should be very thankful for everything you're doing.
Yeah.
I know you don't like to talk about it, but we really appreciate everything that you're doing from your leadership, not only within the company, but within the city.
Yeah. Well, we're just trying to make this a better place. We want to make sure every Oklahoma has a better job than what they have today, and do that through economic development. So, thanks for being here today, Brett.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. In our next episode, we're joined by Stan Lingo, owner of Lingo Construction Services. Known for building some of Oklahoma City's most distinctive commercial spaces, Stan has led projects that blend innovation and craftsmanship. He brings perspective on the evolving role of design in commercial development.